What if I told you a average player is just 3 steps away from being elite? Imagine this. 2 players, same position, same training hours, same coach. One plays in the Champions League, the other plays Sunday League. What's the difference? That's not a rhetorical question. There's a real answer, and it's not what most people think. Not talent, not luck, they were just born with it. Players like Harry Kane, striker who shouldn't work on paper, but somehow always does. Lamine Yamal, a teenager who plays like he's been in the game for 20 years. And Kylian Mbappé, arguably the most complete footballer on the planet right now. What do these guys have that others don't? We're breaking it down across 3 categories: physical, technical, and mental. Because the gap between elite and average isn't one thing, it's everything stacked on top of each other. 1, the physical side. Let's start with the obvious one. Speed, strength, endurance, and agility. These are the physical qualities everyone notices first. But here's the important part. Being an elite athlete doesn't mean being the fastest player on the pitch. It's about having the physical tools your position demands and knowing how to use them. Take Kylian Mbappé. His acceleration is one of his biggest weapons. But watch closely. It's rarely just about running fast. He creates a small advantage, gets his body between the defender and the ball, and then accelerates into the space. The first 3 or 4 steps are often more important than his top speed. That's a huge difference. Fast player runs quickly. An elite player knows when to accelerate. The same idea applies to strength. Harry Kane isn't built like the typical image of a dominant striker, but he uses his body incredibly well. When a defender gets close, Kane knows how to protect the ball, absorb contact, and create enough space to make his next action. That's functional strength. Not strength for the gym, strength for football. And then there's endurance. An elite player might cover a huge amount of ground during a match, but the key isn't simply running more. It's being able to repeat high-intensity actions. Sprint, recover, sprint again, press, change direction, recover, make another run, and then in the 88th minute, do it again. That's where fitness becomes valuable. Because football doesn't ask you to perform one perfect sprint. It asks you to perform hundreds of actions while you're tired. And that's where elite physical preparation starts to separate players. But physical ability is only the foundation. Because you could be the fastest player on the pitch and still struggle to get past someone. Why? Because football isn't a track race. It's a technical game. 2, the technical side. This is where things get interesting. Elite players don't simply have better technique. They make better technical decisions under pressure. Think about first touch. Almost every serious footballer knows how to control a pass. But watch an elite player. Their first touch often solves the next problem before it happens. The ball arrives. They already know where the defender is. They already know where the space is. And their first touch moves the ball into the exact area they need. One touch can turn a difficult situation into an easy one. That's why the first touch matters so much. It's not about making the ball look pretty. It's about controlling the situation. Now think about passing. An average player sees a teammate. An elite player sees the next pass. That's a huge difference. They don't only ask, who is open? They ask, where will this player be 2 seconds from now? That's anticipation, and it changes everything. Same thing applies to dribbling. A lot of young players think good dribbling means doing more skills. Stepovers, flicks, nutmegs, fancy movements. But elite dribbling is often much simpler. One change of direction, one body feint, one touch into space, one acceleration. That's enough. Because the goal isn't to perform a skill. The goal is to beat the defender. Yamal is a great example. What makes his dribbling dangerous isn't simply the number of tricks he knows. It's his ability to manipulate defenders. He changes speed, he changes direction, he waits for the defender to shift their weight, then he attacks the space they leave. That's technique combined with perception. And that leads to one of the most important technical abilities in football. Scanning. Before the ball reaches them, elite players are constantly checking their surroundings. Who's behind me? Where's the defender? Where's my teammate? Where's the space? What's my next action? The best players often know what they're going to do before the ball arrives. That's why they look like they're playing faster than everyone else. They're not necessarily moving faster, they're thinking earlier. And this brings us to the 3rd category, the one that might separate elite players more than anything else. 3, the mental side. Now this is where the gap gets massive. And I mean it. Because every player has bad games. Every player misses chances. Every player makes mistakes, and every player gets criticized. The difference is what happens next. Imagine you're a striker. You've had 5 shots, you've missed all 5, the 6th chance arrives. What are you thinking? Don't miss. That's the wrong thought. Because now you're playing against your own mistake. Elite players learn to reset. The previous shot is finished. The next action is the only thing that matters. This is one reason confidence matters so much. But confidence doesn't mean thinking you're better than everyone. Real confidence comes from preparation. You know you've trained for this moment. You know you've taken the shot thousands of times. So when the opportunity arrives, you trust yourself. And then there's decision-making. Football gives you almost no time. You receive the ball, pass it, turn, shoot, dribble, hold it, switch play. An elite player makes those decisions quickly. But there's another layer. They make the right decision, even when the obvious decision is wrong. Imagine you're on the counterattack. You have the ball, a teammate is making a run, the defender expects you to pass. but the space behind the defender is open. The best decision might be to carry the ball for another second. That tiny decision creates the difference. Elite football is full of moments like this. Half a second, one touch, one movement, one decision. That's why football intelligence matters. And there's a reason some players seem to have more time than everyone else. They process the game faster, they recognize patterns, they understand space, they predict what opponents are about to do. They don't wait for the game to happen, they read what's coming. But there's one more thing we need to talk about. Consistency. Because having elite ability for 10 minutes isn't enough. You need to repeat it every week, every month, and every season. Think about the difference between a player who has one incredible game and a player who performs at a high level for years. The second player isn't necessarily more talented, they're more consistent. They recover properly. They train seriously. They study their performances. They accept criticism. They fix weaknesses. And they repeat the basics. This part isn't glamorous. Nobody makes a highlight video about a player sleeping properly before a match. Nobody posts a compilation of a player doing recovery work. Nobody celebrates someone staying late to work on their weaker foot. But those small decisions add up. That's how standards are built. So what actually makes a player elite? Let's put everything together. Physical ability gives you the tools. Technical ability gives you control. Mental ability gives you the decisions. Consistency keeps those qualities at a high level. And the most important part is how they interact. Take a player with incredible speed, but poor decision-making. They might run past defenders, but lose the ball. Take a player with amazing technique, but poor physical preparation. They might look brilliant for 20 minutes and disappear later. Take a player with great physical and technical ability, but poor mentality. One mistake might destroy their confidence. Elite players stack these qualities together. They're fast enough, strong enough, fit enough, technically clean, mentally composed, and intelligent enough to know when to use each quality. That's the real difference. The goal isn't to become the best at one thing. It's to remove weaknesses from your game while making your biggest strengths more dangerous. And here's the part most players get wrong. They train what they enjoy. If they love shooting, they shoot. If they love dribbling, they dribble. If they're fast, they work on speed. But elite development starts with a different question. What is holding my game back? Maybe your first touch breaks down under pressure. That's the problem. Maybe you don't scan before receiving. That's the problem. Maybe you lose focus after making a mistake. That's the problem. Maybe you run a lot, but don't know when to make the right run. That's the problem. Find the weakness, train it, then turn it into something reliable. That's how you build a complete player. Now that we have went over all of this, what makes an elite soccer player elite? It's not one magical ability. It's not simply talent. It's not one training session. It's the combination of physical preparation, technical quality, football intelligence, mental strength, and consistency. The best players make difficult things look simple because they've trained the details thousands of times. Their first touch is cleaner. Their decisions are faster. Their movements are smarter. Their reactions are calmer. And when the pressure rises, they still execute. That's the difference between being good and being elite. Because at the highest level, everyone is talented. Everyone is fast. Everyone can pass. Everyone can shoot. The difference comes down to what you do when the game gets difficult. When you're tired. When a defender is closing you down. When you've just made a mistake. When the score is tied. When there are seconds left. That's when elite players separate themselves. So if you want to become a better player, don't ask, how do I become more talented? Ask, what part of my game is keeping me from reaching the next level? Then work on it. Because elite players aren't built from one great quality. They're built from hundreds of small improvements, repeated until they become part of who they are as a player. If you want to become an elite player one day, consider subscribing. It helps me reach more players like you and build a community of people who take football seriously.